What up, everyone? How you guys doing? So for this video, it's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. Lately there's been a lot of questions and some criticism on my videos and what I do for a living. So I thought I would answer those questions by kind of giving you a backstory on how I began with dirt bikes, how I got started with my business, and kind of the beginnings of my YouTube as well. So I'll start off with kind of my first memories of dirt bikes and how I got started with that. I would say I was probably 7 or 8 when that's probably my first memory of a dirt bike, is around that age. We had a couple mini bikes, like the Harbor Freight bikes with 2 wheels, a frame, and a lawnmower engine. And so these sat in our garage. We had 2 of them and they never ran. And I remember sitting on them, imagining riding them, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so from then on out, I always wanted to have a dirt bike and ride one. A few years went by, and let's see here, I was probably 10, maybe 11 at the time. And 2 of my brothers and we found this bike, an XR80. It was a 79, I believe, and all 3 of us went in on it. It was $120. I don't know why I remember that, but it was a screaming deal. And I don't think I have any pictures of it. If I did, I would put them up if I can find them. But so we went in on this bike. We were 8, 10, and 12 at the time, and I never really rode it that much. It was the first bike, so at 10 years old I was pretty scared of it, and I was just a pansy, and I never really rode it much. My older brother was the one that beat on it and ripped it for the most part, and we ended up selling this bike or trading it for like a bandsaw or something, and I ended up with some cash out of the deal, and I went and bought a XL75 from a bike yard, and the motor was seized up on it. So I bought some parts on eBay for it, got it running again, and kind of cleaned it up, repainted a few things. And this was the bike I really learned to ride on and learned how to work on. And actually, if I find a picture of it, I'm gonna put it up. This thing was pretty pimp. But yeah, 78 XL75. And so I had this bike for probably 6 or 8 months. Ended up selling it for $500 or so, and moved on to an XR80 upgraded. This was a few years newer, maybe like a 1985 or 86. As a kid, you're learning how to work on stuff. You're breaking parts and you're stripping things out. So I had actually bought a parts bike. I found this deal on a bike that didn't have a motor, or something was up with it. Motor seized up. And so I had a parts bike for the bike I rode, and I'd steal parts off this other bike and use it towards fixing up my own bike. And once I sold the bike I rode, I had this parts bike chilling there, and I thought, well, if I can buy parts on eBay like I did for the XL75, I can definitely sell the parts on eBay. And of course, at 10, 12 years old, you can't really do it all on your own. I had a lot of help from my dad, of course, but getting started, that's what helped quite a bit. But so I ended up parting out this parts bike on eBay, got rid of the parts. I don't know how it did, but that's really what got it started on parting out bikes and selling parts. Let's see, fast forward a little bit, those XRs, I stuck with those for a while. I had an XR100, I had lots of XR80s and 100s, and that was my thing for a while, up until probably 14 or 15. That's all I rode and all I messed with those was those XR80s and 100s. We would pimp them out and do all this cool stuff to them, big bore kit, do suspension mods and whatnot. But the whole time I was into those bikes, I would find parts bikes and good deals on them because I knew the market really good, and I would sell these parts on eBay, and that's kind of what made me realize that there is some money in selling these parts. So that's kind of the story on how I got started with bikes and selling parts. The wind picked up, so I had to move locations. But anyways, starting from 13, that's really when I started parting out bikes, and ever since then, that's been my only income source. So like the title says, I've never had a job in my life. This is all I've ever done, and it's all I know. So like if I had to go get a real job, 9 to 5 job, man, I would be in trouble. I'd be screwed. So I really had to make this happen and continue to have to, push this every single day. But I'm really thankful for what I do, and it's awesome. It's a blessing. So to dive more into detail on how the business works and kind of why I do what I do, I've already somewhat explained it, but what I do is I take whole bikes and break them down into hundreds of pieces and sell each piece. So from one bike, it equals about 100 to 120 parts. And if each one of those parts is going to fixing up someone else's bike and enabling them to get back on the trail or track, man, that's a lot of bikes being fixed just for one bike. So it makes a lot of sense in that regard. But also, this is a business, this makes me money, and this is my passion. This is what I wake up and I look forward to doing every single day. And that's really all there is to say about it, and to talk or touch more on why it makes sense to buy used parts and part out bikes is, okay, let's take this 03 CR125 for example, since a lot of you guys have seen the video on it. This bike was in really good shape. It's 15 years old, and big things like a frame, a swing arm, a set of forks, a shock, all that stuff you cannot buy from the manufacturer anymore. It's not available. And then to go and find it used, like if no one was parting out bikes, you wouldn't be able to find that stuff. So if Joe over here breaks his CR125 swing arm, cracks it or whatever, and he's looking for a swing arm, no one's parting out bikes, and he can't get it from the manufacturer, you know what that bike's gonna do is it's gonna sit there and not be able to be ridden. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense to be parting out bikes, and some people don't see that side of it, so they criticize and say you're destroying the bike and you're ruining it and this and that. It's fine. People can think that. So how this evolved from age 13 till now, I've been doing this for 11 years now, and I'm 24 now. To dive into how I got to this point, I started with XR 80s and 100s, like I was saying, and a lot of this was just personal stuff. Personal bikes. I would ride these bikes, then part them out, move on to the next one, buy a parts bike here and there, just kind of being a kid and riding dirt bikes and working on them. That's really all it boiled down to. And as I grew older, 15, 16, I realized this is what I'm going to do for a career. I find a lot of joy in it, and it pays the bills. So when I graduated, I was like, all right, I'm going all in. This is what I'm doing. So every minute I had, I devoted to building this business and having fun with it. And that's where it's taken me to at this point. So I started with used bikes. I did, broken down bikes, the cheap stuff at first. And that evolved into bikes that were good running bikes that didn't need any work. And then in 2013, maybe it was 2012, I started doing brand new bikes. I'd go to the dealership, pick up a brand new bike, bring it home, and just take it all apart, not start it, not ride it, of course. So that I did that for a few years, and the market's kind of changed in that area for sure. But still, like with used bikes and new bikes alike, there's always a market for it. People are gonna need parts. So at this point right now, I'm pretty much doing used bikes and older, 2-strokes and 10-year-old bikes here and there. So that's kind of where the motorcycle industry is headed. There's a lot of people that don't have the money to go and buy a brand new bike. And personally, I've moved in that direction as well, buying older stuff or going back to the 2-stroke, like the 125 I have. For a while I was buying a new bike every year, and that kind of wore off. It was cool to have a new bike, but what it boils down to for me and for most people is fun and simplicity. And it's hard to beat that with a 125 2-stroke. So it's so cool wringing the neck on it and throwing it around. That really brought the fun in it back for me. And business-wise, doing these types of bikes, that's where a lot of people are headed. They're buying up the older bikes. They're fixing up a 10-year-old 2-stroke again, and just how the economy is. So it makes sense for me to do those bikes. I can completely understand where people are coming from when they're criticizing and saying these things, or they're just butthurt about me parting out bikes. It's understandable. If you see, I'll refer to this 125 again, the CR 125. They see this bike, it's in mint shape, it's 15 years old, and they're like, that would be a sweet bike to have. I'd love to have that bike and be able to ride it. And then they watch my video and I'm tearing the thing apart and selling it in parts. That would hurt some people. And I understand where they're coming from. But like I was explaining how the business works, it makes a lot of sense to me to do that. And it's not like I am taking a cutting torch or a Sawzall and hacking this bike into pieces. In reality, every part or every good part is being used and sold to the next guy to fix up his bike, even down to like all the hardware. I'll sell a hardware or a chassis hardware set and an engine hardware set. So literally everything except for like graphics I'll rip off and toss out, and busted parts of course, but everything else, man, all that stuff sells. I was gonna bring up how I got started with YouTube as well. This began, I want to say like 2010 is when I started my channel. I didn't really do any how-tos until 2011 or 12, and I actually did quite a few of them for a solid 6 months. The first video I ever did was of me explaining how to do something, was how to change a tire. And man, I can remember that. I was so scared to be on camera, and it was really hard to do, but I just had to push through it. And I was like, all right, my motivation was, I know how to change a tire. If I can help someone out there with them changing their own tire, save them from bringing it to a shop or whatever, then it's a win-win. It was fun filming that video, and that's kind of what sparked it. Like, I just want to be able to help people out, and if I can share a little bit of knowledge and show people that things can be done at home, then I thought it was just awesome to do. That's really where I started with it. And growing up, I'll give you a little more of the back end of it. Growing up, I was always super shy. Throughout middle school and high school, I never really said much. I just did my work, went home, worked on dirt bikes, and built a business. That was it. That was my childhood growing up. I didn't really care to socialize at all, and it is what it is. It's part of it, part of the sacrifices a person makes. But with that being said, doing YouTube really helped quite a bit just to be able to break out of that in a way, have somewhat of a voice, and it was what I was passionate about. So that and helping people with their bikes was the motivation for starting YouTube, and still is for me right now. Like, I love helping people out, and if I can, what's crazy is doing these videos actually helps me quite a bit with my own technique and trying to do things better and learn, just continually learn and evolve. And there's videos I've actually done where I haven't really even done that to my own bikes. I'm trying to think of something as an example. For example, the wheel lacing and truing. I haven't laced or trued a wheel in, I don't know, it's been a while, at least a year. I was like, oh yeah, let's just bust out a video on it real quick. So it was kind of a refresher for me. I haven't done that in so long. So it's really good for myself as well. It started raining, thankfully, so I'm back over here. What I was gonna talk more about was the YouTube channel and kind of where I'm taking it. For the foreseeable future, it's gonna be much of the same. Doing the how-to videos, a little bit of vlogs here and there, and then just exciting things I have coming up in the future. So as you can already tell, I changed the channel name to my own name. So the content's gonna be the same for the most part. I'll make it more personal. You know, having my business name on there kind of limits me on what I can do. And having my own name on there, it's just more of a personal, you know, YouTube's such a personal thing, you know, especially with how much of your life you're putting on there. So it just makes sense to put my own name on it. But trust me, the channel is not going to change a whole lot. It's going to be a lot of the same content. And for things I have coming up in the future, I am planning on building a track out here. I do have the pit bike track behind you guys in the field here. And so how this is set up is I have 20 acres. My house is in the middle. The front 10 acres I'm not really using. In the back 10, I have somewhat of a track going on, a big bike, like outdoor style track. I've started building it here and there. I haven't done much over the summer just because it's been so dry and it's hard to move dirt when it's like that. And so that's the plan in the future. Build the track and kind of document that. That would be awesome to kind of show the process. Besides that, just new bikes I get in, I would really want to build a bike and then show more riding videos. I mean, that's why everyone likes dirt bikes, is obviously because they're fun to ride. And it's fun to watch other people ride them too. So I'm going to definitely incorporate more riding videos. And beyond that, it's just whatever comes up. You know, I'm not trying to, I don't want to put in too much like outside things. If I do some things around the house, I might put that in, I might not. You know, if I think it's cool and people would like it, I'll throw it in there like a vlog as well. So that's kind of where it's headed as far as where I see it going right now. Hopefully that answers some of the questions you guys might have. And actually, one thing I just thought of this, what would be cool is to do a little tour. I don't think I've really shown the pit bike track that much, or around the shop and house, whatever. And just my setup here. So I might do that pretty soon. Let me know if that's something you would like to see. I think it would be fun filming it and just showing like how my shop is set up. You guys have seen parts of it, but just to go into more detail. Alright, I think that pretty much covers it for this video. If there's more questions you guys have, feel free to put them below, and if there's a lot of questions, I might just go ahead and do a Q&A. I think that'd be fun to do, and if that's something you want to see, just let me know. Alright, thanks so much for watching the video, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Later. Oh, one last thing. My last name is pronounced Niemela. I know it's a tough one, so I figured I should probably set it straight. It's a Finnish last name, from Finland, of course.